Hi folks, Dr. P here, and I'm going to respond to a question that I saw on Quora, and that was something like, how do game designers find the fun in a game? And that was the term, find the fun. Well, the person posing that question was probably thinking more in terms of video games, but I'm going to give you my point of view as somebody who mostly designs tabletop games. First, I should say, you shouldn't find the fun, it should be designed into the game. If you're designing a game and then just see if it ends up being fun, you're not doing enough. You're sort of throwing things together instead of really thinking about it. Also, I wouldn't use the word fun, of course. I don't, because to me, fun is more dependent on the people you're playing with and the scenario that you're playing in rather than the game. So I prefer enjoyable or interesting, and that sort of avoids that wrong meaning of fun, but still reflects what's happening. How do you know that the game is enjoyable or interesting? Well, first of all, when I play the game solo, and I almost always play prototypes solo before I inflict them on anybody else, I ought to feel the interest. I ought to feel the enjoyability. If not, I'll usually abandon the game. Second, when other people play, I watch them, I listen to them, I may talk with them after they play, and if they seem to like the game, then maybe there's something in it. There are several stages in the game where I say, is there something in it? Is it worth continuing? And it's possible that I'll have a prototype played several times and then decide it's not worth continuing. And there are other cases where, of course, it is worth continuing. Certainly, there's no formula involved here. A lot of people who want to get into game design want formulas that they can follow and get something done. Well, game design is not something you can do by rote. It's an experience-based thing, not a follow these rules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not the way it works. That's true of many creative things, but I think perhaps more of game design than a lot of others. So, the other thing I could say about this is I don't use questionnaires. Some players make up fairly elaborate questionnaires, which are usually shit, because they make a lot of assumptions. And I try not to make assumptions. I try to know some of the testers, and I don't know some of the testers. It varies. And I watch what they do and listen to them. And I think that you can find out more about what people think by watching what they do and listening to them rather than asking them questions on a questionnaire, because it's widely known that people often say they'll do one thing, but in practice they'll do something else. So I don't feel that questionnaires are very reliable, even if one could be made that was very well designed. Now, what else could you do? Edward de Bono has a method of evaluating creative ideas called 6 hats, and I invite you to look that up on the internet. And that, in that situation, which I rarely use, but perhaps probably should use more, you ask the people to put on a particular color hat, and that particular color hat represents one kind of thinking about the game, and then you ask them to respond. That usually works better because they're asked to respond in a particular way than just asking for comments. So one of the hats might be the hat of improvement. I don't remember which color de Bono uses. So I'd be asking specifically for improvements to the game. Another might be a hat that invites criticism. Another might be a hat that simply invites a general point of view, and so forth. So look that up and perhaps try that out. I think it's worth more than questionnaires. So if you have to ask specific questions to people, go ahead. Now, I like to have playtesters that I know and have playtested a lot of things, and that helps me recognize what they're doing. But say I go to a convention and get something playtested and I don't know some of the playtesters, usually I do, then that 6 hat method might make sense. and it might even make sense to make colored hats and put them in the middle of the table. But I haven't gone that far. Thanks for listening.